The story begins with Barry Allen getting ready for work. On his way to the office, he stops at a local bakery to order a sandwich. But the sandwich isn't the real reason he's there. The girl he has a crush on works at that bakery, so Barry finds an excuse to stop by almost every day just to see her. Unfortunately, one of the employees tells him she isn't working today. Hearing that leaves Barry pretty disappointed. Just then, Barry gets an urgent call from Alfred, Batman's trusted assistant. He tells Barry that a robbery has turned into a full-scale disaster at a hospital in Gotham City, and the situation is completely out of control. Barry asks where the rest of the Justice League is, but Alfred explains that everyone else is tied up on different missions. That means Barry has to handle this one himself. Without wasting another second, Barry taps into his super speed and races across the city, reaching Gotham in only a few seconds. When he arrives, he sees that the ground around the hospital is collapsing, putting countless lives in danger. Barry immediately springs into action, using his incredible speed to rescue people one after another before the entire area caves in. A few moments later, Batman arrives in the Batmobile to back him up. Batman tells Barry to focus on saving everyone trapped inside the hospital, while he goes after the criminals responsible for stealing a deadly toxic gas that caused all the chaos. Because the ground beneath the hospital has collapsed, the entire building begins sinking and breaking apart. Inside, several young children and a nurse are still trapped, and they're all seconds away from falling into a massive sinkhole below. Realizing he has to save all of them at once, Barry activates his full speed. From his perspective, time almost comes to a complete stop. Moving that fast burns an unbelievable amount of energy, so Barry suddenly becomes extremely hungry. While everything around him is frozen in slow motion, he grabs food that's flying through the collapsing building, eats as much as he can in an instant, and refuels himself. With his energy restored, Barry calmly rescues every child and the nurse before any of them can hit the ground. Meanwhile, Batman is chasing the criminals who stole the toxic gas. They fire advanced weapons at him, but thanks to his cutting-edge technology, quick thinking, and incredible combat skills, Batman dodges every attack. The chase spills onto the highway, where the criminals blow up a fuel tanker, hoping to stop Batman. Instead of backing off, Batman launches himself off his bike, lands on top of the criminals' vehicle, and starts taking them down. Terrified, the driver jumps out of the moving vehicle, causing it to lose control and crash through the edge of an overpass. Batman barely manages to catch himself with one of his grappling gadgets. At the same time, he grabs the criminal before he falls into the river below. The criminal is still carrying the stolen toxic gas, and if those containers end up in the water supply, thousands of innocent people could be poisoned. Batman can't hold on forever, and his grip starts slipping. Just in time, Diana Prince, also known as Wonder Woman, arrives. Using her lasso of truth, she pulls both Batman and the criminal to safety. By then, Barry joins them after successfully rescuing everyone inside the hospital. The criminal is finally taken into custody, and with the mission complete, Barry heads back to the same bakery where he usually buys his sandwich. After grabbing his order, he finally arrives at work, very late. His boss immediately chews him out for showing up behind schedule. Barry works as a forensic investigator because of something deeply personal. When he was a child, his mother was murdered and his father was arrested for the crime. But Barry has always believed his father was completely innocent. That's why he joined forensic science, to uncover the truth and one day prove his father's innocence. After work, as Barry is heading home, he's unexpectedly approached by an old college friend who now works as a journalist. Barry was thrilled to see his old college friend after so many years. But the moment she asked about his mother's murder and his father's case, he became emotional. Unable to talk about it, Barry quietly ended the conversation and headed home. Back at his old neighborhood, memories of his childhood came rushing back. Wearing his flash suit, he stood outside the house where he had grown up, remembering the days when life was simple. As a kid, Barry had shared a happy home with his loving parents, and they cared deeply for him. One evening, while preparing dinner, Barry's mom realized she had forgotten to buy tomato sauce. She asked Barry's dad to run to the grocery store while Barry stayed in his room studying. A short time later, Barry suddenly heard his mother scream. He rushed into the kitchen and froze in horror. His mother had been stabbed, and his father was kneeling beside her, desperately telling Barry to call an ambulance. Because Barry's father was found at the scene and there was no evidence that anyone else had entered or left the house, the police arrested him for the murder. But Barry had always believed his father was innocent. Overwhelmed by those painful memories, Barry began running faster and faster. As he pushed beyond his limits, he entered a strange dimension where time itself surrounded him. Moments from his entire life floated around him like living memories, and he realized he could actually travel to different points in his own past. For the first time, Barry discovered that his speed allowed him to travel through time. After returning, he met with Batman and told him everything. Barry believed he could go back and save his mother before she was killed, but Batman strongly warned him against it. He explained that no one truly understood the consequences of changing the past. Even the smallest change could create unimaginable problems. Batman reminded Barry that losing his own parents was what led him to become Batman. In the same way, Barry's father's imprisonment had inspired him to become a forensic scientist, which eventually placed him in the lab accident that gave him his super speed. Every moment in our lives shapes who we become. Some things are painful, but they're part of our journey. Barry couldn't let go of the idea. Later, when he returned home, his college friend stopped by again. Barry assumed she wanted to ask more questions about his mother's case, but she smiled and said, "I'm not here as a journalist today. I'm here as your friend." Barry quickly used his super speed to clean up his apartment before inviting her inside. While they were talking, an idea suddenly hit him. He remembered that on the day his mother died, she had forgotten to buy tomato sauce, forcing his father to leave the house. Barry realized that if he simply placed a bottle of tomato sauce into her shopping cart before she checked out, his father would never need to leave for the store. Maybe everything would change. Excited by the idea, Barry rushed outside, entered the Speed Force, and traveled back to that exact day. He quietly slipped a bottle of tomato sauce into his mother's groceries without anyone noticing. As he started returning to the present, Barry could already see his memories changing. New happy moments with both of his parents began replacing the painful ones, making him believe he had finally fixed the past. But before he could make it home, a mysterious dark figure suddenly appeared inside the Speed Force. Without warning, it punched Barry with incredible force, knocking him completely out of the time stream. Barry crashed outside his childhood home. Confused, he walked inside and was shocked to hear his parents talking. His mother was alive. Overjoyed, Barry hugged her tightly, believing his plan had worked and that he had successfully changed his own timeline. He spent the evening enjoying dinner with his parents, happier than he had been in years. But then, he heard someone shouting outside. The voice sounded exactly like his own. Barry immediately realized the truth. He hadn't returned to his original timeline. He had landed in an entirely different reality, and in this universe, the younger version of Barry had just arrived home from college. Before Barry's parents could discover that there were now two Barrys, Barry quickly stopped his younger self from walking into the house. He pulled him into his bedroom and explained everything, from time travel to how changing the past had accidentally created a completely different timeline. To avoid confusion, we'll call the original Barry Flash 1 and the younger Barry from this new timeline Flash 2. Unlike Flash 1, Flash 2 hadn't gained his powers yet. The idea that another version of himself was actually a superhero completely blew his mind. Excited, he begged Flash 1 to show off his speed. Reluctantly, Flash 1 gave him a quick demonstration, leaving Flash 2 completely amazed. When Flash 1 asked today's date, he realized something important. It was the exact day the lightning strike would give Barry his powers. Knowing history had to stay on track, Flash 1 took Flash 2 to the forensic lab where the accident originally happened. If Flash 2 never gained his powers, the timeline could completely fall apart. Worse, Flash 1 might lose his own connection to the Speed Force and never make it back to his original universe. Since Flash 2 didn't work at the lab in this timeline, they had to sneak inside without anyone noticing. The moment Flash 2 learned he actually had to be struck by lightning, he completely panicked and tried to run away. Flash 1 barely managed to hold him in place, but at that exact moment, lightning struck. The experiment worked, but not the way Flash 1 expected. Flash 2 gained super speed, whoa, while Flash 1 suddenly lost his own powers after being hit by the same lightning blast. Devastated, Flash 1 returned home with Flash 2. Meanwhile, Flash 2 couldn't contain his excitement. Ignoring every warning, he raced around the city at full speed, just for fun, without a proper Flash suit to protect him. His regular clothes burned right off, and his reckless sprint caused power outages and chaos across the city. A completely naked Flash 2 eventually returned home. Flash 1 patiently taught him the basics of controlling his new abilities. He even gave Flash 2 his own Flash ring, which contained the advanced Flash suit inside. Getting both the suit and the ring made Flash 2 even more excited. But before they could celebrate, they noticed people across the city panicking and running through the streets. The two Barrys stepped into a nearby store and watched the breaking news. An alien spacecraft had just entered Earth's atmosphere. Military forces around the world were already preparing for battle. The moment Flash 1 saw the ship, his face turned pale. He immediately recognized it. It belonged to General Zod from Krypton. Flash 1 explained that in his original timeline, Zod's invasion had killed thousands of people before Superman barely managed to stop him. But Flash 2 revealed something even worse. In this timeline, Superman never existed, neither did the Justice League. The only superhero anyone had ever heard of was Batman, who had disappeared from the public eye years ago. Without Superman, without the Justice League, and now without his own powers, Flash 1 realized Earth had almost no chance against General Zod. Later, after talking with Flash 2's friends, they confirmed that Batman was still alive. With no other options left, the two Barrys traveled to Bruce Wayne's mansion, hoping the Dark Knight could help save the world. But the Bruce Wayne they found was much older than the one Flash 1 knew. Mistaking them for intruders, the retired Batman attacked without hesitation. Flash 2 easily dodged every strike, using his new super speed, before finally explaining that they had come from another timeline, one where Batman wasn't just a hero, he was the leader of the Justice League. This version of Batman explained something important to Flash 1. Changing even a single moment in the past doesn't just affect one event, it reshapes the entire timeline. Every choice creates new consequences, and once history changes, the future changes with it. That's why time should never be tampered with. After a lot of convincing, Flash 2 finally talked Batman into helping them. He pointed out that no matter how much history changes, some things always seem to stay the same. In Flash 1's original timeline, Batman and his loyal butler Alfred existed, and in this timeline, they existed too. That made Batman realize something. Even if this universe didn't have Superman yet, there still had to be someone capable of stopping General Zod. Some events were simply destined to happen. Using his advanced Batwing aircraft, Batman flew both Barrys to Russia, where intelligence reports claimed that a mysterious child from another planet was being held inside a secret military facility. Batman believed that child had to be Superman. After infiltrating the base, they quietly fought their way through the guards and reached a heavily secured underground lab. The moment the soldiers spotted them, a fierce firefight broke out. Flash 2 used his super speed to keep Flash 1 from getting hit, while Batman relied on his gadgets, combat skills, and experience to take down the guards one by one. Finally, they opened the massive containment chamber, but instead of Superman, they found a young woman trapped inside. She looked weak, exhausted, and barely alive. Realizing Superman wasn't there, Batman ordered everyone to leave before more soldiers arrived. But Flash 1 refused to abandon the prisoner. He carried the mysterious girl with them as they escaped. Just then, one of the scientists spotted them and raised his weapon. Before he could fire, Flash 2 dashed forward and knocked him across the room. But in the chaos, a stray bullet struck Flash 2 in the leg. For the first time, he felt real fear. More armed guards poured into the lab from every direction. Batman stepped in, using his armored suit to absorb the incoming fire while protecting both Barrys. A brutal fight erupted. Outnumbered, but determined, Batman used his experience to lead everyone into an old service elevator. Just before the soldiers reached them, Batman planted an explosive beneath the elevator shaft. The blast launched the elevator upward, carrying them safely to the surface before the guards could stop them. Outside, something incredible happened. As sunlight touched the mysterious girl's body, her wounds began healing almost instantly. She wasn't an ordinary human, she was Supergirl. The soldiers surrounded them once again, but before they could attack, Supergirl unleashed her true powers. She tore through the entire squad with incredible speed and strength. After pushing herself too hard, however, she collapsed unconscious. Batman quickly flew everyone back to Gotham in the Batwing. While Batman stitched up the injuries he had suffered during the mission, Supergirl finally woke up. Looking confused, she asked, "Who are you?" The two Barrys introduced themselves as the Flash. Flash 1 explained that they had actually been searching for Kal-El, believing he was imprisoned there. Instead, they had found her. She introduced herself as Kara and revealed the truth. She wasn't Superman, she was Superman's cousin. Years without sunlight had drained nearly all of her strength. So Flash 2 brought Kara onto the rooftop, where she stood beneath the sun. Within moments, yellow sunlight restored her Kryptonian abilities. When Flash 2 asked if she had fully recovered, Kara answered without saying a word. She simply blew toward a massive stone statue and shattered it into pieces with a single breath. That was all the proof Flash 2 needed. She was even more powerful than he had imagined. Flash 2 begged Kara to help them stop General Zod and save humanity. But Kara refused. After spending years imprisoned and experimented on by humans, she had lost all faith in them. She wanted nothing to do with Earth's battles. Without another word, she took to the sky and flew away. On the other side, Flash 1 decided to recreate the exact accident that had originally given him his powers. The plan was simple, but incredibly risky. They recreated the same chemical setup, placed Flash 1 in the chair, and hoped that another lightning strike would trigger the same reaction. If it worked, he'd regain his speed and finally have a chance to stop General Zod. Before they began, Batman asked him an important question. Once you get your powers back, you can return to your own timeline, so why are you risking your life to save this one? Flash 1 quietly answered, because in this world, my mom is still alive. Hearing that, Batman finally understood the pain Barry had been carrying all along. Unbeknownst to them, Flash 2 overheard the entire conversation. The realization crushed him. If every timeline eventually led to Barry losing his mother, then his own mom's fate might already be sealed too. Some moments in time simply couldn't be changed. Meanwhile, Supergirl flew straight to the location where General Zod's massive Kryptonian ship had landed. Zod demanded that the military hand over the Kryptonian they had been hiding, but since Kara had already escaped, the soldiers had nothing to give him. Enraged, Zod ordered his forces to wipe out the entire military unit. Supergirl watched the massacre from a distance. Back at Wayne Manor, Batman finished rebuilding the lightning experiment. Flash 2 looked terrified. He was afraid the second attempt might kill Flash 1, but Flash 1 stayed confident and told him not to worry. Batman routed a massive electrical charge through his aircraft high above them. When lightning struck the Batwing, the energy surged down into the chemical setup and slammed directly into Flash 1. The impact was agonizing, but nothing happened. His powers still didn't return. Refusing to give up, Flash 1 begged Batman to try one more time. Batman restarted the system, but this time the equipment overloaded and completely burned out. Now there was no way to repeat the experiment. Just then, Supergirl arrived. Without saying a word, she carried Flash 1 high into the storm clouds, hoping a direct lightning strike would succeed where the machine had failed. Lightning hit him again, but even that wasn't enough. He crashed back to Earth badly injured. Flash 2 rushed to his side. The moment he touched him, Flash 1's wounds began healing, and the Speed Force finally returned. His powers were back. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After that, Flash 2 customized his own homemade Flash suit, using parts of Batman's equipment, while returning Flash 1's ring and original suit to him. Now, with Batman, both Flashes, and Supergirl finally standing together, they prepared for one final battle. Kara had already watched her home planet, Krypton, disappear forever. She refused to let Earth suffer the same fate. Together, the four heroes headed straight for General Zod's invasion force. As soon as they reached Zod's ship, both Flashes and Batman joined the remaining military forces and charged into battle against the Kryptonian army. Meanwhile, Supergirl headed straight for General Zod, while the two Flashes and Batman battled Zod's army. Since this was Flash 2's very first real fight, he struggled against the Kryptonian soldiers. Flash 1 stayed beside him, teaching him how to use his speed in combat instead of fighting with fear. When Zod finally faced Supergirl, he revealed the real reason he had come to Earth. He explained that Jor-El had sent Kal-El away with the genetic code needed to restore Krypton. Supergirl told him he had already lost because Superman wasn't there, but Zod shocked her with the truth. They had already found Kal-El and killed him. The restoration code had never been inside Superman. It had been inside Kara all along. Now Zod intended to extract it from her and use it to rebuild Krypton. Hearing that her cousin was dead, Supergirl exploded with rage. She launched herself at Zod and overwhelmed him with a brutal assault. At the same time, Batman and the two Flashes continued fighting through Zod's soldiers. Believing Zod was finally defeated, Supergirl lowered her guard, but Zod survived. He struck back, seriously wounded her, and activated a machine designed to extract the Kryptonian code from her body. Things only got worse. Batman's aircraft caught fire during the battle. He became trapped inside and died when the Batwing crashed. Without Batman and Supergirl, defeating Zod was impossible. So both Flashes raced back through time to try again. They changed events. They saved Batman. They rescued Supergirl. But no matter what they changed, both of them always died. And every single time, Zod still managed to obtain the Kryptonian code. Flash 1 finally understood the painful truth. Some events were simply fixed points. Just like he could never permanently save his own mother, this timeline would always lose Batman and Supergirl. He begged Flash 2 to stop trying, but Flash 2 refused to give up. Convinced that one more attempt could change everything, he kept traveling back over and over again. Inside the Speed Force, Flash 2 repeated the same battle countless times, yet every timeline ended exactly the same. Then Flash 1 finally recognized the mysterious armored creature that had knocked him into this alternate universe. It wasn't a stranger at all. It was Flash 2's future self. After spending what felt like thousands of years trapped inside the Speed Force, he had become obsessed with saving Batman and Supergirl. He blamed Flash 1 for every failed timeline. To him, Barry's arrival had ruined everything, so he decided Flash 1 had to die. His endless attempts to rewrite history began tearing apart the multiverse itself. Different timelines started colliding, and alternate versions of famous heroes briefly appeared before entire worlds began collapsing. Just as the future Flash attacked Flash 1, Flash 2 stepped between them. He sacrificed himself to save Barry. The moment Flash 2 died, his future self vanished as well. The collapsing timelines stabilized, and the multiverse stopped falling apart. Heartbroken, Flash 1 realized that his presence had unintentionally destroyed an entire world. There was only one thing left to do. He traveled back to the grocery store one final time, the day his mother bought groceries. This time, instead of secretly placing the can of tomato sauce into her cart, he quietly put it back on the shelf. Before leaving, Barry looked at his mother one last time. She didn't recognize him, but she still smiled warmly and hugged him. Knowing it would be their final goodbye, Barry silently walked away. After restoring the original timeline, he returned to the present. Soon afterward, his father's court hearing finally took place. This time, security camera footage clearly showed that his father had been shopping when Barry's mother was murdered. The evidence proved he was innocent, and he was finally set free. Barry couldn't have been happier. Outside the courthouse, reporters rushed toward him with questions, but Barry simply smiled and left with his friend. Before leaving, she asked him out on a date, and for the first time in a long while, Barry had something to smile about. A few moments later, Bruce Wayne arrived to congratulate him, but Barry immediately realized something was wrong. This Bruce looked completely different. That's when Barry understood. Even after fixing the timeline, his actions had still changed reality in unexpected ways. In the movie's final scene, Barry met up with Aquaman and tried to explain everything that had happened with time travel. Unfortunately, Aquaman was completely drunk. Instead of listening, he handed Barry his ring and asked him to go buy more beer. And with that hilarious moment, the Flash came to an end.